Before we start this episode, I would like to shed a light on what's currently happening in Ukraine, and to be frank, for all the people who are going through wars at the moment, and pray for them from the bottom of my heart to God the most merciful for their safety, because I was blessed with one of the most important elements of happiness, which is safety. So in honor of the people who are going through hardships, let's pray for them and hope that they are not harmed by the hard conditions that they are going through now. That being said, let's start our episode. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Road to JuxtaP, where we take a road trip through the endless opinions and thoughts of this world. So grab your favorite drink or snack, and today's suggestion is going to be some hot ginger tea, because this is recorded post my COVID and we need to polish some vocals, so buckle up because it's going to be one hell of a ride. I'm your host Jude, and today I recorded this episode after talking to my best friend because I was feeling the blues, and strangely enough, I was refreshed. It felt new to me, so that being said, let's dive into today's topic. Friendship is a relationship of mutual affection between people. It is a stronger form of interpersonal bond than an acquaintance or an association, such as a classmate, neighbor, or colleague. This was Wikipedia's definition of friendship, and I believe it's much more deeper than this, because we often forget that friendship is just another type of relationship, just like a romantic one, and maybe just as deep, if not more. And honestly, I don't think we put standards to our friends just as much as we put standards to our future spouses, such as being honest, having, good hygiene or something. They usually don't have that. So anyways, listen, I had a rough patch of friendships. I used to have the sky-high standards on how a friend should be, and the best friends forever notion that is personally was very toxic to me. I don't know if you had a best friend forever since like grade 2 or diapers, but to me it was just this notion that I had to have this best friend since I was a child, and it just didn't work because I did not have a friend when I was grade 1 and 2, and they stuck with me until high school. I changed schools, so it had to happen that I had to change friends as well. And I still carried that notion with me throughout these school years. And it gave me a hard time because I tried to fit people in molds that the mold was too perfect for these people to fit in, and it just wasn't realistic enough. And listen, it was both ways. It was these people wouldn't be friends with me, and it wasn't the mold was too perfect. So it was just a mess. And I got that ridiculous idea that friendships should be like since diapers from movies and TV shows that I've watched. And trust me, I've watched enough Disney movies to say that best friends forever exists. Because high school movies, oh my god. So basically, it was very toxic. And to me, as I'm saying, to me, because they show you how like the second that she gets into a new high school, she gets this friend who introduces her to the whole new school, and she just sticks with her until they graduate, and they both have a happy life into being accepted into college, you know? And the more that you watch these movies and the more you watch these TV shows, you start to be like, oh yeah, that's how friendship should be like. Thanks, Disney. It ruined my life. And I learned from life experiences, from getting so much disappointed to the point I was like, damn, if friendship is that hard, I don't want it. So eventually my perspective and my ideology changed because I matured. I eventually had to hit that road, you know? And during the COVID times, which was 2020, I was in a proper friendship crisis that I looked for a friend as if it was my life mission. And I just looked at people and just put them on bulletin board. I was like, yeah, this person has the qualifications. I might put them in the higher section. This person, nah, I don't think so. They just didn't click with me, and I just dismissed them. I was like, good luck next time, you know? It was hard, but then I realized that they're people as well. They're people just as much as I am. And they are human, so they have mistakes and they have flaws, and they're not perfect and they cannot fit my perfect mold. So I had to change the way that I think about friendship. And this is what I discovered. Number one, it's not a one size that fits all, okay? Because I thought that you had to have this one best friend that has all your interests, that fits all your moods, that just goes out with everything that you do. And listen, it's not right, okay? You have friends who fit the happy mood. You have friends who fit the I want to talk to you on a deeper level mood. You have friends that you want to share the biggest news, and you have friends who you just want to chill out to just have some coffee with. It's not bad and it's not wrong. It's just how life is. You're not going to have a one size fits all kind of a thing. And if you do, congratulations. You keep that in mind. Just walk with it, okay? Just did not fit me well. So I had to compromise and I had to see how the shoe would fit me. I don't know why I'm using shoes. Anyways, so basically, I had to understand that friendship goes both ways. Yes, I'm a very empathetical person. It means I give a lot. I'm a Pisces, don't judge me. Okay, so I give a lot. I like to give people, but I like to receive as much as I give. And naturally, you get disappointed when you give 100 and you receive a 20. You know, it's just I got that a lot. That's the problem. It's not the problem that one person treated me that way. It's that 100 people treated me that way. And I got fed up with it. And I thought I did not find my soulmate. Another thing, why do soulmates have to be romantically involved? That just doesn't have to exist. Soulmates can be friends as well. And that was not part of the list of notions I had about friendships. I thought soulmates were only exclusively romantic. And thus when I started to realize that, oh my God, you can have a soulmate that is just a friend. That is another thing that I discovered here. Like facts on a plate. Anyways, so it is both ways. It has to go both ways. So now I am reaching out to people, and as the author Richard Templer, who wrote The Rules of Life, said, you have to give. And you have to do what you have to do, okay? So when people don't give back, or when people be like, hey, I'm sorry, like this happened, at least you did what you have to do and you did your part. So your conscience is clear as day, okay? Next things out. Superficial friendships does not mean a bad or a wrong thing, believe it or not. You can have these friends who are not like on a daily basis on contact, not on a weekly basis of contact, or even a monthly basis of contact. These people exist in certain places. For example, you are a guy who goes to a barber shop or a girl who goes to a salon. Your barber is your friend. Your hairdresser is your friend. These people, you connect with them on a very short notice between very long intervals. How often do you go to your barber or your salon? See, that's what I'm saying. It's a superficial relationship, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong or bad. It's just monumentary, okay? See, when you come to these things, you always have a philosopher who had so much time on his hand and he decided to just create rules out of nowhere. So let's come and talk about Aristotle's 3 types of friendships. Our first type of friendship is utility. The second one is pleasure. And the third one, the most perfect one, is virtue friendship. As opposed to friendships to pleasure and usefulness, perfect friendship exists. Aristotle argues, between persons who are virtuous, there is no friendship among crooks. True friends with the good of each other. Their friendship lasts as long as they are themselves good and is therefore more enduring. Fine, okay, we get it. Basically, he believes that there are types of friendships and there is the perfect friendship in all of them, in which it is based on virtue, like basically courage, patience, temperance, etc. Okay? Utility and pleasure are based on different things. Utility is basically usefulness, and the pleasure is basically that you get pleasure out of this friendship. I don't know how, but you do that, okay? On the other side, the juxtaposition side, we have our philosopher Plato that doesn't believe in friendship. He just outright says it, okay? He thinks that these relationships are rarely mutual and more often terrible, as the needy are codependent on the wealthy. So basically, he lived in a life where there were too many rich people and too many poor people. There was no like middle class. So he believed like when poor people are friends with rich people, it's more of like usefulness. They're just getting benefits from each other more than it's actually like a beneficial relationship or like a virtuous relationship. So he's like, if you all want to be friends, as long as they are formed by people who share equal social status. He was a negative person and he died as a negative person, and I'm glad I don't even know him. Okay, so basically, friendships, different types. It's fine to have superficial, it's fine to have deep, and it's fine to have an every once in a while hello. It's fine. You don't have to have that like stuck to like a glue kind of friendship, okay? Sick of being considered a kid? Do you finally want to sit on the adults table? Now, our new exclusive adulthood bundle. You get the experience of your dreams, including a 9-to-5 job with a minimum wage, having multiple life existential crises, as well as the delusion of thinking you're independent when you still have your mommy card. Now, for only $9.99, taxes not included. Side effects may include depression, anxiety, and homelessness. Now that we talked about how friends are like these days, let's take a quick trip back to the past and analyze how friendships are back then and now. I did a mini interview with my dad and I asked him how friendships were like back then and how did they begin and basically what were they based on. And he said basically, Baba, listen, our friendships were based on the kids in the neighborhood, schools, relatives maybe, and the most important one of them was like what your mom chooses for you. You be friends with that, you be friends with that, you do not talk to that. And that was basically how their life was. And he's like, listen, look at me, I'm alive and I'm happy. You know? So basically this is how friendships begun once upon a time when my father was a child. I can't even imagine. Anyways, so back then also, they used to have a lot of friends because like, you know, the whole neighborhood and the whole relatives and everyone lived in the same place. So it was like 30 kids together, like friends. But nowadays it's kind of hard to get 30 people to be friends with at the same time and be connected with at the same time. It's just different. We have different aspects that we can actually analyze friendships now and then. And they are, as we previously mentioned, beginnings, distance, and quality. And let me tell you, the last two are basically life changers. Why? Because my mom did not have contact or precisely lost contact with her colleagues or with her university batch, let's say, when she graduated, naturally, because then she moved from our country to where I live now. And plus, no phones were properly invented back then, so they couldn't even be like, hey, DM me a message every once in a while, you know? It wasn't an option. So they just left it dry, and they never got in contact until Facebook was discovered. And it wasn't even until like 3 years ago that they started to talk together, and they found a whole group where like all of their colleagues were in the same group, and some people got married, some people have kids. So basically it was just like more of a comfortable environment to chat. And when she tells me about their stories, you can see how she missed them. And at the same time, some of the people that she talks to now, she wasn't even friends with when they were back in college. So it kind of like revives old flames, if you get what I mean. It's the same thing with my dad. The other day, he found a friend of his who allegedly studied with him in the university days, but he wasn't properly friends with him, you know? So when they got to see each other again, he's like, wait, did we study together in the same college? He's like, yeah. So they got in contact again, and they became the bestest of friends. Happily ever after. Okay, moving on. So now they know each other properly, and they go out together. And you see, like, friendships have timings. It doesn't mean that, for example, you know a person that you're going to be friends with them at that time. Time will flow, and you might change, and this person might change, and eventually y'all will cross the bridge at the same time and meet each other there. That was very romantic. Anyways, our last aspect of analysis is quality. Okay, this is the most important of all. And before we start with quality, I want to share something that I listened to from a TV show that I'm watching, a K-drama. Sue me. Anyways, it says, There was like an interviewer who was interviewing 3 candidates to hire them for a specific job. And the job interview took place in 1995 or 1998. I'm not sure. Okay, anyways. And basically asked them, he wanted to be the kind of guy who asked, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? But he asked this: what is the only thing that is going to be constant after 10 years from now? And he gave them the space to answer. The first candidate says, love and how relationships are. And the second candidate says, hope and dreams. And the last candidate was the most hilarious one and realistic one. And he simply said, listen, gravity is the only thing that's going to be constant after 10 years because God knows what is going to change. And he was right when he was in 1995. And look at now, us, 2022, how love changed, how relationships changed, and how hopes and dreams even changed. We do not have these things as constants. They constantly change. That is the only thing constant about them. And gravity, of course. Okay, so there is constant changes, which means that friendships change, which means that relationships change, and thus we cannot stay in the same place forever. Okay, the next aspect that we said we're going to talk about is quality. Now, there is this thing that is quality over quantity and quality versus quantity kind of thing, where you be like, you have 3 friends but they're like the best friends ever, or you have 30 friends and you see them every 2 weeks or so. And the difference between the quality and the quantity is basically determined in the time of need. When you are, God forbid, in a time of crisis and you realize that you need some kind of support, and then you see none of these 30 friends at your door when you are in need of them. What's the purpose of having 30 friends if they're not gonna be there to help you when you need them, I mean, let's be real. It's easier to juggle 3 balls than to juggle 30. And to keep the relationship sturdy between 3 people is also easier than to keep a relationship sturdy between these 30 people. Now, that doesn't mean these 30 people are not necessary. Networking is very important, especially in these days. Look at me. I'm trying to survive because I don't know that many people. And other people are not doing as much, but because I praise them for that. They know so many people that they are just surfing through life very smoothly. And that is what you need, communication. Going back to our topic, okay? So that's the difference between quality and quantity. Now, there's another aspect that plays in friendships, and it is time. I don't know what it is, but basically, the basic thing that determines the strength of someone's relationship is time and the moments that you guys spend together. Okay, let's set an example for you to understand. You have a friend who you've known for 2 years, but these were the darkest 2 years of your life, and thus you needed someone to support you, and you found this friend and you got to know them, and they were there in these 2 years. On the other hand, you have a friend who you've known for 10 years, but it was basically casual friendship. You guys know each other, you went to coffee shops together, you hung out with other friends together, but you didn't go through tender moments to understand each other's value. So, which one is the deepest, the 10 years one or the 2 years one? This is what determines the depth and the value of the friendship. Of course, time plays a huge role, but the instances that you guys went through together, the important memories and circumstances that you guys stood for each other and helped each other out, this is what counts in friendship. Another thing that has some kind of relation to quality is how people nowadays, because we're so interconnected, it is easier for people to have more superficial relationships than it was back then. Because let's be honest, when you know the whole neighborhood and you know the whole 9 yards, it's kind of hard to fall off the wheel with someone and just ditch them and never talk to them again. You kind of have to see them every once in a while, whether it was a neighborhood meeting. I don't know if you had that. I don't know if we had that. I just see that in Southern American shows. And they go to church together, or in our case, they go to mosques and stuff. So you see them pretty frequently. So you can't just fall off and just pretend they never existed. But nowadays, you can't just like leave a friend and never talk to them again and just pretend that they don't exist. Rightfully so or wrongfully so, that doesn't matter. The action itself. And it's easier because there are so many people that you can connect with other than the people in your neighborhood or your building or your, I don't know, city, because now you can connect with people who are like literally in Hungary and just sitting there. Let's tie the whole three aspects into a very strong sailor's knot. The relativeness of the beginnings, the distance, and the quality all play a role into our relationships with these people. Like, for example, listen, I do have a childhood best friend, the one that I talked about in the very beginning, and she moved on to our country to study her degree, okay? I thought we were gonna lose contact because that's what happens, even if with the strong relations of social media. Some people just like simply are not interested at all and just lose contact. But we strangely became stronger after this a huge distance between us in comparison to the neighbor that I have that I don't even know the name of, you know? It's just these things that play into aspects that determine the strength and determine the longevity of your relationship. It is longevity, by the way, I checked, for anyone who's trying to correct my pronunciations. Anyways, and the more that I read about the beginnings, the more that I understand that beginnings nowadays are kind of like interesting as well, because I'm gonna just tell you that I was friends with someone that I have never seen my entire life, but strangely so, we both had the same name and the same last name. And she's like, oh my God, we both have the same name. And we met on a reading application. I'm not gonna say what is the reading application because I am ashamed. Okay, it's part of my teenage years. Sue me. Okay, anyways. So we were anonymously friends. We have never seen each other. We have not like properly knew who each other was. I just went to my grandmother. I was like, listen, I have this kind of friend who's saying that she has the same name and surname. And you know, my grandmother has just like the family history. And she's like, she connects with you at the fourth grandfather. And that's when we swapped phone numbers and we saw each other for the first time on phone. And then we met each other. And it was fun because at some point it was anonymous. But some people actually continue these discreet relationships because it's easier to share your deepest, darkest secrets with strangers rather than people you know and you know who's gonna stick around and just come by the next day, you know? So now that we have talked about all types of friendships and how these relationships can start and now and then, it's time to talk about the actual friendship, the quality inside, the actual soul of these friendships. And I've had some pretty messed up ones and I've had some pretty good ones because you have to be grateful. You have to see the bad to see the good. You have to feel the fire of the bad to feel the coolness of the good one and the healthiness of the good one. Surprisingly enough, you will have a platonic friendship with people. Trust me, I have tried it 100 of times, and it's just as heartbreaking from the outside as disappointing it is from the inside, where you feel like giving too much and not receiving as much as on the other side, and they believe that, oh my God, it's just a friendship, why are you like putting so much effort into this? I'm like, this is an investment of my time and energy, you know? And this is supposed to like be the harvest after this, the planting of the seeds, you know? It's supposed to give me something good in the long run. I'm supposed to have you as my best friend after 10 years maybe, and to pat on my back when something bad happens to me. That's why I'm putting in effort. Why do you think I'm putting in the effort in the first place, you know? But at the end of the day, it's platonic. It means that they don't want to be that kind of like deep level friendship as you want them to be. And it is disappointing. But that doesn't mean that you can't have that with someone else, you know? I have had that happen to me like a couple, 3-4 times. Not gonna mention any names because I don't want to be on the blacklist. But I've had that friendship that one time. It's the most recent one, okay? And I've put so much effort into it, and I've called as recently as I can, and I checked up on them whenever they posted something bad happened to them, and they just don't call back, they don't text back. And when I release this podcast, this is my new baby, okay? When I release this podcast, I expected a phone call. I expected for them to be, oh my God, you started a podcast. This is something amazing. And they didn't. They didn't even send a message. And you know what? I'm glad, because that means I can just finally cut off the broken limb. If you're listening and you're thinking it's about you, I don't know, just like revise your actions. Anyways, so basically, yeah, I'm putting so much efforts and they're not giving back. But you know, this time where I was like, okay, this is the last call. I'm gonna call them for the last time. And if they don't call back, this is it. I'm just gonna cut off this friendship for the end of goodness, you know? And they didn't call back. And I had to end this relationship on my own. It was kind of like a meeting for one. It's like, yeah, so no one came to the meeting. So this is the end. Fine. And I had to have my closure all on my own. All of the breakup and all of these things on my own. No one carrying me. And it's disappointing. And it's hard because you feel like this is supposed to be a relationship and a friendship between two people. And here you are gathering all of the pieces on your own. I mean, let's be real. Why is there no kind of like friendship counseling, just like couple counseling? Why do couples deserve like counseling and friendships don't? It's like, I get that you're married to that person and you should strengthen your relationship with this person so it lasts longer. But that doesn't mean we can't do that the same thing with our friends. It's not like we can discard them out of nowhere and just have new friends. We have a connection with this person, and I would like to understand why this patch, let's say, is getting harder and why we cannot connect at a certain point. I just had an insight from my sister telling me that it's called therapy. I'm sorry. Anyways, moving on. Basically, that's what I'm saying, is you can go to your therapist and be like, hey, they're treating me shitty these days and I don't know what to do. And basically, this is you and your therapist. And you can come with your friend and be like, tell them why you've been treating me in this way, you know? And this is couple therapy, but for friends, I guess. So my sister created this whole scenario where she was like, she's telling me that couples have to be like, listen, today we have an appointment at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. and we have to go to this couple therapy to understand why our relationship is not working. On the other hand, friends be like, so hey bestie, I believe we have couple counseling on like 10 p.m. I would really like for you to come so we can understand and go through our hardships together. While on the other hand, most people would be like, hey, we're not connecting. Let's just break this whole thing up and never talk to each other again, because there's nothing legally bounding them together, you know? And I don't know why, but friends don't think of the future together just like couples. Because couples be like, yeah, we're gonna get married, we're gonna have kids, and we're gonna send them to college, and we're gonna like grow old together. On the other hand, friends be like, so yeah, coffee tomorrow? Cool. Some of them think in the long run and be like, we're gonna be best friends forever. But they don't think that hardships are gonna come through that best friends forever thing. As I said, it was toxic for me, but yeah. Another type of friendship that I have gone through, and I'm just listing them not because just to tell you my misery life of friendships. No, it's just live and learn, you know? The other type is just like the fading away type. The type that you start as like the strongest friends ever and you both benefit from this relationship, and it's just like you're the power friendship couple of some sort. And then for some reason it just fades out. Like just cold turkey, you know? Suddenly, out of nowhere, they stop contacting you as frequently, and you start by saying maybe they're busy, you know? You start to find justifications, and then they stop calling, and then they stop asking, and then they kind of turn on you for some reason. I don't know, that happened to me. I don't know if that happened to you. And then they just suddenly out cold turkey, nothing. And then you don't want to ask because you feel like you have done your part in the friendship. Or the worst case scenario, which is what I also went through, is basically question every single action that you did, thinking that they're actually mad at you or sad at you, or you did something wrong that you made them uncomfortable and they don't want to talk to you again. And you kind of go through all the history of actions that you had, and you find out either that you actually did something and you confront them and be like, hey, listen, I understand that I was a shitty person when I did this, or Or you find actually nothing and you be like, then why the hell are they not talking to me again? And you, again, have to pick up the pieces and confront it with yourself. And listen, I understand communication is key, but pride plays a whole big lot of factor in this kind of situation. Is like, do I contact them and tell them, hey, by the way, I've done nothing wrong, so why did you act that way? Or do you just like leave it at that and wait for them to, I don't know, come to them as the tide comes, you know, and realize out of nowhere that I haven't talked to my friend since Saturday and I've been acting weirdly and I have to apologize for the bad behavior. To be honest, that never happened to me. I've never had people who just like came by after 6 years of them being wrong and say, listen, friend, I was wrong and I did you dirty and you didn't deserve this and you deserve all of the good things in the world and I apologize. That never happens. That only happens in movies. Does it happen with people? Like the reconciliation kind of a thing? Because I have had a friend who just went out all rogue on me when we were like in grade 9 and we were the bestest of friends. Again, I had so many best friends. Oh God. And then suddenly she started acting weirdly around me and giving me cold shoulders and not talking to me. And then I discovered that I accidentally, in a way, offended her when I didn't even mean it. I apologized for it 100 times, but I guess that didn't cut it. So eventually grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, just out cold. And you can only blame yourself for like a couple of years or something until you realize I have done my part, I have apologized, I have tried to reconcile the relationship and they just refused. And you have just done it. That's on them now. On them to come back and be like, I accept your apology and we can be friends again. Or they can simply say, and they have all the right to, honestly, listen, I can't forget what you did to me, even though you didn't mean it. I just can't get over it. And I don't think it's going to be easy to complete our relationship and our friendship if we come back together, you know? So let's say our forbid goodbyes and just move on. And I would respect that. But to leave me out in the cold like this, don't do that to people. It's just, closure is the most important thing for people to move on. So give them that. People deserve that. So I guess you can never get enough of talking about friendships and friends, and we can have another episode where we chit chat about our deepest, darkest, and most traumatizing relationships, but that is for another day. Thank you so much for listening to Road to JuxtaP. That was a blast. I mean, diving deep into these friendships and these types, classic chef's kiss. Anyways, so thank you so much for listening to Road to JuxtaP. Do not forget to follow me on Instagram at R2JXTP_podcast. That is R2JXTP_podcast on Instagram. And listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day or evening if you're listening to this at night. And goodbye.